Welcome to Confessions Beyond the Food. I'm your host, Nancy Redlin. Let's dig in and get inspired. Welcome back to Confessions Beyond the Food. I really enjoy this conversation because although we talk a lot about restaurants, this episode is really about leadership. My guest, Christin Marvin, shares her incredible journey from starting as a line cook at just 15 years old to becoming a managing partner by the age of 30. Her story is a great reminder that growth comes from raising your hand, taking chances, and never stopping learning. We also dive into why great businesses are built by developing great people, how to identify and grow leaders from within your organization, and why investing in your team is one of the best investments you can make. If you lead a team in any industry, I think you're going to enjoy this one. Let's dig in. Oh, I'm really excited. So you guys don't know this, but Christin and I connected, I think it was back in November, and we've kind of been going back and forth. And she actually hosts a podcast as well. So really thrilled we were able to finally get this done. Absolutely. So you have a really cool background. You started out at 15 as a line cook. So can you take us back to that 15-year-old version of yourself and what hooked you into this crazy industry?
You know what? It took me a while to get hooked. I think I was just I knew that when I turned 15, I was going to need to start working immediately. I wanted to. My parents were both really hard workers. And for me, I just looked at something that was really comfortable. And so it felt very natural to just go to the restaurant where we spent many birthdays, celebrated good grades on my, my report cards. It was called Barbosa's. It was a family-owned Mexican restaurant. And I don't think, it's all about who you know. I hated that saying in college, but I think it's so true. And so it was very natural. I went in, we were having dinner one night and I said, "Hey, do you guys have any openings?" Or my mom probably asked because I was such a shy kid and so quiet. And they said, "We have, something in the kitchen." I had no idea, what that was going to mean or look like. And they stuck me in the corner and I flipped enchiladas after school. And it was great. It was easy. It made sense for my schedule. And I think, I had obviously I was 15. I had no desire or understanding of what I even wanted to do, over time with a career. And I was just looking to get out of the house. And I loved the food. I was super passionate about the family. I went to school with the kids. I mean, it was just all encompassing and it just made a lot of sense back then.
So tell us a little bit about how you went from a line cook at 15 to a managing partner at 30, which is an incredible accomplishment. Tell us a little bit how you got there.
I am crazy driven. I'm an only child. I grew up fast. My mom had me balancing the checkbook and paying bills when I was 10. I liked learning a lot of, and I still do. I love learning a lot of new things and constantly growing and developing and being challenged. I can't really sit still for too long. I'm very much a hyperachiever. I like making my lists. I like crossing things off. I get that dopamine rush, and I just move forward. So I moved to Colorado when I graduated high school, and I got a job. And this is 1999 at Outback Steakhouse as a server and a bartender, and that really taught me. I learned so much about structure and trainings and, everything had a reason to why we did the things that we did. It taught me how to sell. It got me out of my comfort zone. Again, this shy girl from the Midwest, from a small town, moving into Colorado Springs, which I thought was a big city at the time, working for the busiest Outback in the state, which was right next to the World Arena. It was thrilling. I was making amazing money. I was living by myself. I was putting myself through college. I was having a blast. I was meeting people. It was like everything, you could experience in the restaurant industry. It was like, I was 19. We were drinking with the staff after work. Managers were pouring us drinks. Everybody, like, we were sleeping with each other. It was just like all the thing, I was like, what is this industry? This is a blast. So I loved it. And I still love it. But I worked there for about a year and a half, and I wandered up the street to the Broadmoor, which is a gorgeous 5-star, 5-diamond property in the Springs. And they just happened to be having a job fair. And I met a very charismatic Irishman that was there interviewing people he was there on an international program. And he said, "We're opening this cocktail bar that we've just put $1 million into. And it's going to be, a cigar lounge. It's got a great story behind it. It was in the original building of the hotel that was built in 1918, where all the hoteliers first came when the hotel opened. And I got behind the story and I was like, this is really cool. I want to be a part of this. I've never opened anything before. And I got hired as a cocktail server and I was still in college, again, making great money, having a blast. And I graduated from college. I started looking at jobs in marketing and I was like, oh, none of this pays well. I don't know what I want to do. And I ran to the food and beverage director and I said, I love what I'm doing. How do I just do this for the rest of my life? It seemed like the very easy thing to do. And so he said, go through our management training program. And I totally respected the process and, wanting to be in that kind of structured learning environment. So I immediately signed up. I got my binder and I was 24 at the time. And I was like, okay, I got my binder. I'm ready to be a GM now, from cocktail server to GM. And they were like, why don't you go be an AGM first? So I did that for 3 months, raised my hand when the GM job became available at the cigar lounge and became a GM. I was very driven and said I wanted to be a GM by the time I was 24 years old. And they helped me do that. Now, I fell flat on my face. I was still partying with the staff. I didn't know how to be a GM. I was trying to be hands-on all the time. I was just an elevated cocktail server, really, at that point. I would sit in manager meetings and have zero idea what they were talking about. I didn't understand the lingo. I didn't understand the numbers. I was just really trying to figure things out on my own. But I was so determined to just work hard. And I was studying to become a somm and studying mixology. It was just such a cool learning experience. So I was there for 5 years. I transferred over, opened a fine dining restaurant with them where I saw my mentor who was the GM there worked for Danny Meyer. And so I got to see Setting the Table actually come to life in the opening of our restaurant. And I saw what it meant to put really good systems in place in terms of hiring and training and development. I had one-on-ones with my GM every single week. These were things that I had never experienced before. And we created this incredible opening team. We had gorgeous food, Michelin star chef. I mean, it was just really, again, an eye-opening playground for me in my mid-20s. So I was there for 5 years. I wanted the GM job when my GM moved on. I didn't get it. And I was really, really bitter and resentful. And I left and I moved to Denver. And I became a GM for a concept that was going to be open in 2 weeks. I saw an ad on Craigslist for this awesome restaurant downtown on Larimer Square that was going to open in 2007. And they had 50% of the staff already hired. Build out was done, everything. And I jumped right in with both feet to be the GM. And it was gangbusters, crazy busy, amazing, 600 covers a night. It was an opportunity for me to bring that fine dining finesse and the standards that I had learned to a high volume restaurant. So that team and I still talk. They're an incredible group of people. And we were just in the trenches, working hard, again, like playing hard. It was great. And I raised my hand with that company. I knew that the owners, the husband and wife, had wanted to open. They had 2 concepts, but they wanted to open 5 more over the course of 7 years that were all different. And I was like, yeah, I love opening restaurants now. Like, let's do this. So I raised my hand and said, how do I grow with the company? I'll do whatever it takes. And I want to be a managing partner. I want to invest. So I took on events, some director of operations tasks, HR. I was developing the managers, working on training programs for the new restaurant, running the Cat 5 through the ceilings, doing, program the POS. And we just continued to open concept after concept after concept. And I became a managing partner. And I was 30 and I wanted to own a restaurant by the time I was 30. But what I learned during that time was really what partnership meant to me versus what partnership meant to them. And when we opened a casual French restaurant together, it was really, really, really unsuccessful. And the sales were not there. And the concept was not what the neighborhood wanted. And I immediately saw what happened to our organization when things weren't going well. And we stopped listening to the guest and what they wanted. And all that feedback fell on deaf ears. And we didn't give the community what they wanted. And ultimately that restaurant closed. So that was my first taste of failure in the business. And I left that organization to go work for a couple brothers that owned 6 of the same concept. There was a fine dining, high volume brunch concept. And 2 weeks after I got hired, they said, hey, we sold to private equity. We're going to grow on a national level. And we grew from 6 to 48 locations in a 7-year time span. So I took my knowledge of systems and everything to this brand. And I never wanted to work for a chain. I never wanted to scale like that. But I also believed in the concept a lot and knew that it had legs. And so that really set me on this journey of just high paced, high volume growth. And then I burnt out, and then I ended up pulling back from the industry for a second to figure out how to reignite my passion and figure out what I wanted. And that's how I discovered coaching and decided to start my own company.
And can you tell the audience a little bit what you coach on?
Mm-hmm. So it's really leadership. I mean, again, it's we empower owners to be able to build multi-unit restaurants that run without them. And that first and foremost means that they have the right leadership team in place. So that's where we start. We have a very specific independent restaurant framework that we've created over the last 3 years of working with over 40 clients. We realized that everyone was missing very common threads in their business. And it all starts with identifying exactly what leadership roles the restaurant and the business actually need versus just promoting people that are loyal to them, which used to work during the pre-pandemic when top line sales were great and margins were healthier. We could get away with that. Now we can't. And so we help people identify what those roles are, find the people or develop the people into those roles. Once we get that foundation set, then we can start to build the systems and help the organization fly so they can create really sustainable growth for themselves and make sure that the owner isn't chained to the business, because we work with a lot of entrepreneurs that want to open a business because they want to have freedom of time and freedom of purpose and freedom of money and all these things, right? That I love that Dan Sullivan talks about a lot. And then they realize that they're completely chained to the business. So we help them break free of that before they continue to scale.
So in a nutshell, I'm hearing that so leadership is why restaurants fail, not necessarily the food.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I used to go back and forth all the time with with my chef partner. He would secretly say to me, Christin, you're right. Like, the service and the hospitality is more important than the food. If you can go into a place and I do this all the time. I go into places that have mediocre food and mediocre drinks because I know the team, because I know that they care when we're in there, that they love saying hi. They're actually taking time to engage. We get to know them. We get to know their families, what they do on their days off, what their hobbies are. That's more important to me than the quality of the food.
Yeah. So what is the biggest misconception? Because you talked about scaling that one operation from 6 to 44 is a crazy number of locations. What's the big misconception about scaling a restaurant?
What we see a lot with, I'll tell you a story of one of our clients. We have a client that had 3 locations when we opened and went to 6. They think they can do everything on their own. And this owner came to us and said, look, I'm in the day-to-day every single day. I can't get away from my phone. I'm constantly getting text messages. I can't take a day off with my family. I want to open more businesses. I want to be more profitable. I want to create more opportunities for my people. I have no idea how to develop my team. And I don't have leadership around me that can help me be a conduit to development and actually give me space to do what I want. And so we worked with him 3 years ago to identify the talent within his organization and start to nurture and develop them. So we found an AGM, moved her up to GM over the course of a year, moved her into regional. She's been a regional now for 2 years, and they've got leases 4, 5, and 6 signed, and they're ready to go. And we've helped her really build a strong bench of talent within the organization because the owner just wanted to be in charge of real estate and be the face of the brand and vacation a ton with his family, which he does, right? He's gone 3-4 weeks at a time and he loves it. But he wants to be proud of what he's built, and he still wants to be there to support the team. So I think it's that misconception of, if I'm going to open more locations, I have to be the one that's in charge of everything. I have to be the one that's really driving momentum and moving the needle. And it's just not the case. I mean, we bring him back in to the business quarterly and meet with his regional. And we do 4-hour quarterly meetings together to celebrate what happened the last 90 days, to plan ahead for the next 90 days, and to get him and her aligned on here are what the biggest priorities of the business are so that they are very clear on what they're working on together. Because he's so removed from the business, he has all these shiny objects coming at him all the time that he's constantly trying to throw at her. And she's like, no, 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 no. I know what the operations needs. I know what I'm focused on. And so it really helps keep them aligned.
Quick pause to thank W3 Sales for sponsoring this episode. If you're looking for inspiration in food service, from the details that shape the space to the products that elevate the experience, W3 Sales' new online catalog is built just for that. Explore and shop anytime at w3salesonline.com. I know, that's really incredible advice for anybody that owns a business. I know for me, I'm a business owner, and probably it took me like 6 or 7 years to figure that out, empower your people. And so that when you do have to step away for, to do fun things or health or family or whatever it is, that the business thrives and is operating at that level. Because I think that's all of our big concern, right? Is if you step away, they're not going to care like you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm curious, so what's a mistake that you see like operators make over and over again when they expand?
Oh man, I think this doesn't necessarily have to do with expansion. Anybody that's listening right now that owns a restaurant or is operating a restaurant. I had a coaching session yesterday with an executive chef, and he's probably 26, maybe 28. I'm not exactly sure. I've never asked his age, but he's green, but he's hungry. He's been a chef for a few years. Such a growth mindset. Just somebody like takes responsibility for what's going wrong, celebrates what's right. Just an awesome, awesome leader. And I had a really tough conversation with him yesterday, and it really opened my eyes to a lot of conversations that I've had that we've had with junior managers lately. He's lost 6 people in the last 3 weeks in the kitchen. And this is not a high turnover kitchen. It's a very, very successful concept. They have gorgeous food. It's consistent. It's local. It's seasonal. It's beautiful. And they take care of their people really, really well from a compensation standpoint, from a schedule standpoint. On paper, they're doing it really, really right. And we started to go through each one of those conversations. And I said, did you know they were going to quit? What's the reason that they gave you? Did you do a check-in with them when they gave notice? And we started this conversation by him saying, look, I've got 5 or 6 openings in the kitchen. I think he'd hired one by the time we spoke. And he said the same thing that we hear from everybody right now. We are getting applicants in the middle of summer when it's really busy, when people aren't looking for jobs and the applicants are not of quality, right? And we're hearing this post-pandemic so often. We know the experience is less than it has been before from candidates. And I said to him, okay, how often are you having conversations with people before they even get to the point of notice, of giving their notice, so that you can be proactive and make sure you're solving any issues as they come up? And he said, Christin, I'm not at all. And he said, now I want to do check-ins with all these people that are leaving. And so we talked about that. And I said, okay, you're taking a very reactive approach, which is very stressful, because he's like, I'm going to give up a vacation. I'm going to be working the line 6 days a week now until we get these new people in. I know how much pressure this is going to put on the existing team. So we talked about him being reactive versus proactive. And I said, okay, do these check-ins with people, identify why they're leaving. And it's not the reason they give you. It's not because their schedule changed. It's not because of money. There's something deeper there. Let's get to the root of that and figure out what's going on. And then let's figure out how you do check-ins consistently with the team moving forward. One person for 15 minutes every single week. Because he was like, how am I going to meet with everybody and check in? My point is, our young managers are just accepting people's resignations and not challenging or digging or seeking to understand why they're actually leaving, and then using that information to fuel them to start doing proactive check-ins with people to make sure that they can not shoot themselves in the foot, And I said to him, I said, look, you just told me that the quality of applicants that you're getting is really, really poor. And yet you haven't really started to fight for these teammates yet that have been with you for years, that have been great people, great performers. You've invested so much time and energy. They've invested so much time and energy for you. Why wouldn't you fight for them? And it's not, that idea has not clicked for our young managers. And I think it's because there are a lot of veteran leaders out there who are also not fighting for their people. And so we haven't set that expectation to have a conversation. I know that I've had times in my career, and I talk to operators all the time, when somebody gives notice, it's like they're dead to them. And they're pissed, and their pride and loyalty is gone. And it's like, okay, then, F you, you don't want to be with us anymore. And that is such backwards thinking. We have got to shift that, and we need to start teaching these young managers the value of our people. And I reiterated to him, look, it costs $5,000 for an hourly every single time you turn somebody over. Wouldn't it be so much easier to have a conversation with someone, fix that one thing that they're resentful about, or that they weren't able to express to you, or they're scared to say out loud, or whatever? Wouldn't it be so much easier to fix that versus go through all this time interviewing and hiring and staging and training, dealing with the inconsistency of the food, having to train them every single day, teach them knife skills because a lot of people are coming in without them, and put all that pressure on your team? Like, come on, think about the options here. What makes most sense?
I've always wondered, and if it's changed, because the chefs their demeanor has changed a little bit in some really good ways, caring about their team, and some of the old school, hardcore, like, don't talk to me, scary chefs, But is one thing I've always, thought about is like the education they get when they're going through culinary school, if they do, on how to manage and lead a team. Because yes, it is about the food, but it's really, at executive chef level, you're managing. If you're in a big property like a hotel, you could be managing hundreds of people. And there's just so much more than just the food, beyond the food. So what are you seeing in terms of like education opportunities for like how to manage people?
We're still just focused too much on the technical aspects of the job that people are going to be able to learn as they go, and get more and more practice and experience. We're not teaching soft skills. That's a lot of what we do with our leadership workshops, because people say leadership and they're like, I don't know what leadership is. I don't know that I'm a leader. What do you mean you want to talk to me about what my communication style looks like? What do you mean that you want to talk to me about how to show up with intention? They're just these things, they feel woo-woo, and they just sound so out of the ordinary because we don't talk about this stuff. We don't, with our clients, when they say, I've got an opening, I want to promote somebody, we're not asking if they've ever done a schedule or they know what food cost is. All that stuff can be taught. We're talking about leadership. Are they consistent? Do they match your core values? Do they have a positive mindset? Are they good problem solvers? Are they bringing you problems all the time, or are they bringing you solutions? Are they making the organization better already? Are they empathetic? Are they hospitable? Are they willing to help other people around them? Or are they in it for themselves? These are the qualities and the characteristics that we are not teaching in the education system today around the industry. And, there are more educational platforms out there and more resources and tools than there ever have been before, with, like you and I, with podcasts and books and all the, newsletters and social media posts and all that stuff. But the education, I think, has a long way to go, because it is hard. We see this when we, sit for just 2 hours and do leadership workshops. It's hard for us to sit down and focus, right? We're moving a million miles an hour. We're always on our feet, and we don't love learning in a classroom style. And so it's easier to infuse that learning every single day in the day-to-day operations through butcher classes or wine classes and tastings or cocktails or anything like that, pre-shift lineup. Those are the moments of education that are currently existing in our four walls today that we need to infuse more leadership in.
Yeah, and I love how you just gave us the picture of what a good leader looks like, because I thank you for doing it, because that was if you could pick out a perfect leader. But yeah, I think that is something, that turnover is a real thing. And the upcoming generations aren't staying at jobs very long. And maybe they just think that, okay, like, there's always going to be turnover, and people job hop all the time. But, what if we could make the environment where it could thrive and create that environment for somebody to grow? And, I related a lot to what you said earlier about, I didn't know how to run a business. I mean, I knew how to sell, and I knew how, I knew a lot of product knowledge and customers and all those things, but I didn't know accounting or, that side of the business. And so I had to do a lot of self, outside of learning, what people were talking about. So I can definitely relate to that. I'm sure a lot of people can, and on the education. So hopefully, I mean, maybe they'll be infusing that a little bit more, and having people like you out there that can help coach, somebody to do that. But I think first steps, you just saying, just take 15 minutes a week.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
not a lot. That's not a lot.
It's not a lot. And again, like I was saying yesterday with the executive chef, his first question when I said check in with your team, he was like, "Oh my God, that sounds like so much. And how am I going to add 6 to 8 hours of work, to my schedule every single week? I want to protect my boundaries." And I said, "Wait a minute, let's back up for a second. Let's distill this down. How many employees do you have?" He said, "I have 11." Okay. Or 14. And I said, "You're not the only one doing the check-ins, right? You've got a sous chef. Okay. So split them up. Now we're talking about 7 each. You don't have to meet with the same 7 people every single week, right?" And then I said, "Okay, let's talk about, again, how much time you want to spend with them. 15 minutes. Maybe it's 30 in the beginning because this is new and there's more things to talk about, and they will get less and less and more efficient, as you go." I said, "What do you want to walk away with?" And he said, "I want to know how they're doing, honestly. And I want to know what they want to learn and how they want to be developed." I said, "Great. Those are your 2 questions. Easy." And then yeah, start there. It's very manageable. Make it super bite-sized. But the most important thing is consistency. I said, put them on the schedule so people know when they can expect them. Tell them what you're doing so they're not terrified and they think that they're in trouble, right? Because that always happens when you don't have check-ins and then you switch and start doing them. And I said, hold yourself accountable. If they're on the schedule, you've got them built into your template. You're going to have a running list for yourself every single time you go write a new schedule. The check-ins are just going to be right there glaring you in the face. You're not going to miss them. So we created a really good ecosystem that he felt good with, that would work specifically for his kitchen. But, for people that have larger teams, I get it. This is hard. I didn't used to understand the value in these back in the day because I was like, I'm busy. I'm shoulder to shoulder with these people all the time. I feel like I've got a good grasp on them. You don't. You sit them down, you create a safe space for them to open up about what's really going on. Then you find the human element shows up a lot more versus just the professional element when you're working side by side. So meet with people once a month, once a quarter. I mean, it's got to be more consistent than what we're doing right now.
Yeah, the investment of time that you think you're losing on productivity, even wherever you sit, in any company outside the food industry, and the more time you can commit to investing in your people and empowering them, it's awesome. It creates a much more honest, transparent, like you have a lot more visibility beyond just numbers and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a million reasons why it helps the business, but I don't want to just, sometimes I throw things out and I'm like, oh, it just sounds so easy. And I'm getting a tough reminder of this in our business right now. It takes time and energy, like to actually want to sit down with these people, and you have to learn how to listen. There's 3 different levels of listening. You've got to learn how to listen actively, where you're not just hearing what people are saying, you're ready to hear it. You're understanding what their body language is coming off as, and you understand what the environment is around them too, so that you can fully be present for everything that they are presenting to you. And that's really hard sometimes because a lot of us listen at level 1, which is, I hear you, but I'm already thinking about what I'm going to say to you or what my response is going to be. And that's not listening, right? So it takes time and energy and desire and a willingness to let go of that pride and those emotions. When you sit down with somebody and you ask them how they're doing and they start to unload on you about something that you are not ready for, you've got to be able to prepare yourself for that. And that can be very, very tough. I've really struggled with that in the past too, and not take it personally. But when those moments happen, I think, what we coach a lot on in these moments is ask that person for solutions. Again, don't just let them bring those problems to you. Co-create the solution with them, co-design it together so that there's buy-in from both sides. And you don't feel like you're getting up from every single one of those conversations with a longer to-do list, because that's what a lot of leaders fear as well. And that's why they stay away from those conversations.
That's really, really good advice. So that's awesome. Well, we're almost out of time, but I definitely want to first of all, I really appreciate this conversation. I have a little confession before you share your confession. So my husband waited tables at Outback. So, oh yeah. So, I mean, we still go to Outback, and that's where that's where his college job. So that's awesome. And I waited tables in a Mexican food. So I feel very kindred spirits with you. So
I love it. I mean, that bloomin' onion, it's so unhealthy, but it is so delicious.
yeah, but they have a great platform for learning and development. I saw a lot of people go, that were servers that became managing partners. And so it's really cool.
Well, and I knew my development path there, which was cool. I understood when I walked in the door how I could work my way up. And that was really cool.
That's awesome. And that's just something, I mean, we can all take, is to make sure that your employees know, what path, and, if you don't have one, sit down and put one together. So, well, great. Well, do you mind sharing your confession?
I would love to. I'm very much, so I quit drinking 5 years ago, and I've really been studying nutrition and dialing in what I eat every single day. I'm a routine person. I'm very regimented. I love eating clean food, but I love ice cream. And so once a week, I've got to go have a scoop at my favorite ice cream shop in Denver. It's called Sweet Cow. They have 7 locations for anybody that's listening that's in Denver. I'm a major Sweet Cow fan. I worked there for a couple of years during the pandemic. I love them. But I also live in the old Italian neighborhood in Wheat Ridge, which is just a suburb of downtown. And so we have 3 Italian delis that have been open for like 50 or 60 years. And they have the best gelato. So I will swap between ice cream and gelato if I want to be a little healthier with my options. But yeah, I've got to have my scoop of ice cream. It used to be a pint a week, and now I'm trying to behave, and it's a scoop a week. But that is my guilty pleasure every week.
So I have to ask, what's your favorite flavor?
Oh man, if it's Sweet Cow, I like anything with cookies because they use real Oreos. My ultimate favorite flavor is at Sweet Cow is Fluffernutter. So I watch the app constantly to see when it seasonally comes available, and it's I've never actually had a Fluffernutter cookie, but it's marshmallow cream or mallow cream and peanut butter swirl that gets really hard in the ice cream, which is delicious. If I'm getting gelato, I love spumoni because I used to go to the old spaghetti factory when I was little, and we would eat spumoni out of the little silver container on the caboose when they had a couple tables on the caboose. So it reminds me of being a kid.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that you splurge. And so that's awesome. Well, I've really enjoyed having you, Christin. And so you just have so much wisdom to share. And y'all, I'm going to link her books and her business on here so you can reach out to her, because I think she'd be a great resource if you're stuck and you're looking for some help. So it's okay to ask for help. And so out there. So anyways, but thank you so much. And we will see you guys soon.
Yeah. Thanks, Nancy. If I can pull one plug real quick before we.
Yes.
Okay, great. Because you mentioned if anybody needs help, everybody we are seeing right now that people are so open to having more conversations about what's going wrong in their business, which is exactly the thing that moves their needle forward. So anybody that's listening to this that wants a free copy of Multi-Unit Mastery, grab one at irfbook.com. It stands for International Independent Restaurant Framework book.com. Once you sign up for that link and you get a copy of the book, you're going to get a link to my personal calendar. Let's do a gifted coaching session for you, and let's start to dive deep into some of those challenges that you're having. So I just wanted to throw that out there as a gift for everybody listening.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so nice. Well, we will put that link, if that's okay, and in the captions, so you can find that there.
Thank you.
So check it out, you guys. Check it out. So thank you so much, Christin.
Thank you.
For more inspiration, follow our social media at W3Sales. Please like, comment, and subscribe. You know, all the things. We would love to connect with you.